Hey, welcome everybody to my chess stream here on lichess and Twitch. International Master William Paschall. We're going to be streaming blitz and classical chess. Had a memory loss there for a second. That is classical chess and blitz. So-called classical chess. It's actually really fast, in my opinion. Here on lichess, my handle is Sparklehorse, and over on Twitch, I'm Slagey. We're going to be playing anything between 5 and 8 minute games with a small increment between 3 and 5 seconds. Just want to say hello to Plucro and I am Minky, who are already hanging out in the chat with us before we've even gotten started. So, absolutely, we had a cool simul yesterday. It was kind of record long simul. I had one game that was a rook ending, very technical rook and pawn end game, which lasted like it was over 3.5 hours. This game was like 3 hours. Actually, 3 hours and 45 minutes. Does that make sense? No. It was like 3.5 hours exactly. Craziness. But I wasn't sure what I was doing in this rook ending because it's been a long time since I looked at it. But in retrospect, I think that both players played it pretty correctly and in a draw. So if you guys like to challenge me between 5 and 8 minutes with a small increment, the 8-minute challenges can keep the increment down to like 3 seconds. And if you want to play the faster games, like 5 minutes, you can increase the increment to 5 seconds per move. So classical, yeah, for lack of a better name, they call it classical here. You know, it's more like a rapid game. I mean, really, classical I think of like 40 moves in 90 minutes or 2 hours, actually, but they just needed a name, so it's called classical. Don't be scared that it's more than 15 minutes. The longest it goes is like 20 minutes per game. So I've got challenges from Suvik and Constant Change, the Indian tandem, M47, who's been back lately, and if anybody wants to contact me, don't send a message on lichess. Make sure you send it over on Twitch. It's much faster and easy for me to see it without having to click anything. If you want to contact me, you can just catch me live on the Twitch stream there. So without further ado, we're going to get started. Suvik is first. And I said these guys were very similar, but it looks like Suvik is about 100 points lower than Constant Change, but they're actually quite close. M47 is also back. He can play a good game too. And Miotz has challenged me to 5-6. I'll let it slide. I normally just play 5-5, but 1 second doesn't make that big a difference. So Suvik, Classical Blitz. I can't pronounce things in French. I know Plucro is in France. Blitz. Well, I guess that Blitz is a German word originally, but these things are interrelated. I guess it's a question of linguistics. The history of words. Alright guys, I'm not warmed up yet, but I have been awake long enough to be awake. That's the important thing. So just automatically playing my Sicilian defense. Yesterday I had a tournament game in the morning. I drew, sadly. I had a terrific opening against the FIDE Master. Just a clearly massive advantage, and I missed like a 3-move combination that would have been decisive. Sadly, a really tactically oriented player would have seen it, but I didn't see the exact concept. Later on I had an ending I also could have won, which was a little psychological. I thought I had lost my winning chances, but never give up hope. Okay, so Suvik is playing the closed Sicilian. I have had problems here lately with the closed Sicilian. Maybe I've always had problems with the closed Sicilian, and I'm just in denial of it. But one thing about the closed Sicilian is that it's not that popular with strong players. So I think I haven't really been tested the way I've been tested by strong players in the open Sicilian, and that's probably the reason why my play against the closed Sicilian isn't as strong as it is in open variations. I can't think of too many GMs who play the closed Sicilian. Alright, well, I'm not going to learn a new system right now on the fly. E6 is recommended by some grandmasters. So D3, but it's probably best to play E6 on move 2 if you want to play it, rather than play knight C6 then E6. It also avoids other stuff like bishop B5. Maybe I should start playing E5. My good friend David Vigorito, also an international master. I remember he used to play E5 sometimes. I never liked the move because it just leaves a big hole on D5, but it does give black a fairly solid kind of position where he has a little more space than other variations with E6. So there's something to be said with it. I was always avoiding this line. Of course, it also blocks the bishop on G7. Alright, let's play rook B8. Wait a minute. Rook B8. I'm trying to remember something now. Had an idea. Oh. Right, okay, D6. Now let's try this. Justice Bot is back. Well, Justice Bot, I looked at the ending, but not in great detail. You know, I mean, went off to watch the Super Bowl. I was a little tired after the simul, but I looked at it briefly. But it needs a little more detailed analysis. So I can't say I've looked at it. I've looked at it in detail. I mean, I don't think that we made any grave errors, but it is something I'm going to have to look at. F4 now. I was actually hoping for bishop E3. F4 is more quiet. There's some aggressive lines with like 92. Justice Bot, I can't believe you're still here. You were here last night. You must be tired, man. What time is it there? Where are you, by the way? Are you in like Oregon? On the West Coast? F4. Okay, there's a couple different lines. There's rook B8, E6. I guess we'll play E6. Is there a delay in your stream? It's on my phone, but I'd like to play with you, so if you accept my challenge, you might need to wait a while until I see it on stream. Cormats, I mean, we're playing on lichess. If you play me, you're playing me on lichess. If you're watching the stream, you know, you're going to be watching the stream through Twitch. They're different. Bishop E3, knight E7. Yeah, Justice Bot, I agree with you. I mean, I think that I should know that endgame cold, you know. It's not good that I was like indecisive and not really sure. I thought I was like winning in one moment, and I wasn't ever winning, and that's not good, you know. I mean, I'm at the level where that should be absolutely like 100%. I know what's going on, and I think at one point I definitely knew that ending. But as I said, oddly enough, I haven't had that many games where I've had to play that kind of endgame for whatever reason. Surprisingly few. The bishop pawn in particular, I can't remember. I mean, if I've had that ending in a tournament, I definitely have had knight pawn and been unable to win. In that kind of situation with you know, white's king being way back like that. But I don't think that either side made a big mistake, but I think that it's a good point that you're making, that I need to study it. Alright, so we're in theory here, as far as I can recall. I had a game 15 years ago in this line. It was kind of a popular this was kind of a popular little variation for a while. There was this book, Beating the Anti-Sicilians, by a guy called Joe Gallagher. That's like that book's probably almost 20 years old now, but I remember it whenever this variation in particular. E5 is the big trendy move there. It was the trendy move, but I think that a lot of answers have been found. That's a tactical move. Rook B1 is a safer move for white. So, I don't know. It's just not very fun playing these lines, is it? I think that I had this with Suvic once before. I may have played bishop d7, which actually I don't mind. This move should be fine. Yeah, Cormits. I mean, the stream and the games itself, the game itself being played on lichess are not really truly connected. So the stream, there is a delay. The moves you'll see a little bit later. 92 right away. I had the same game, I think, against Suvic, where I exchanged the wrong knight. Last time I took on e2, which was stupid. I should exchange on f3. Of course, I imagine I could play e5 here, which I was talking about a minute ago. It also certainly makes a fair amount of sense. Why is it that knight takes f3 I thought was better? I mean, maybe this was just a slightly different position that I played last time. Maybe it was knight takes e2 check. I guess I should just figure this out for myself here. Forget about trying to remember my previous game. Anyway, it's a pretty boring position. Not a lot for black to do to create any kind of dynamism here. So knight takes f3. It looks like he'll be ready to play d4 after that. I remember there was a game where I played queen a5 to hit the a pawn in a not so distant past, but I'm not sure how effective that would be here. What's the advantage in exchanging on f3 versus exchanging on e2? I think that one of the advantages is knight isn't that well placed on e2. Kind of getting in the way. Doesn't really have a good path into the game. Now my b7 pawn. This is just such a boring position. Or you could just agree to a draw here against an equal opponent. I would, honestly, if I was playing anybody who was like 2350, I would just offer a draw straight up. Just to save the tedium for another time. But looks like white's threatening d4. Question, is that good or not? I don't know. Rook b8 probably. b6. Maybe b6. Knight c6. Alright, I'm gonna make a decision here. Last time I played this opening against you, I obtained a clear winning position. This is the game. But this was like... Damn, dude's got time to add that in. Yeah, I'm sure you did. Queen a5, a3 probably doesn't hurt white too badly. He'll have b4. I'm just gonna like lose on time here. You crept up on me on the king side? Is that the idea? I'm gonna play f5 this time. I mean, I'm not gonna let you play f5. He's got 5 minutes, 20 seconds. 5 minutes to 20 seconds. Well, anyway, I've got my increment. But, you know, you kind of like my opponent from yesterday in that you don't think... I don't really understand why you're not taking your time to think critically. Just like constant change. Too fast. I'm thinking too long because I'm talking about the game and stuff like... Obviously, I'm taking too long. I mean, I'm aware of that. But I think on the other hand, you guys oftentimes play too fast. I've gone out of, you know, out of control with using all my time here because I've been kind of babbling. I shouldn't get into this kind of time pressure. I probably shouldn't get under a minute. Keep a little bit of time in reserve. But I was really trying to remember the last game. Couldn't come up with it. Suvic, let's see. Okay, that game I don't recall. It's been a long time ago. You guys can trust, you know, most of the regulars here if they put a link in the chat for the most part, but just be a little bit careful like whose link you click on. A regular contributor like Suvic is perfectly okay. Suvic, don't add more time. That's okay. Not necessary. What's that? St. Louis Chess Club is hosting now. Thank you, St. Louis Chess Club. F5 has been played, so he played knight g3. Well, everything's protected for the moment. I'm a little bit worried about this. This is like overloaded. In general, guys, don't give me extra time. It's not necessary. I'm very capable of playing with a 3-second increment. In fact, it helps me to get people to panic and actually lose games because they think I'm going to lose on time, so they move more quickly. You guys are much more calm when I have like a minute and 36. I've talked about that before. A lot of time pressure addicts, they do benefit from this. Okay, so he closes the king side now. All right. This is like a dangerous plan of h4, h5 sometimes. I had a game in a tournament here last week where I actually let the guy push that pawn down to h6, but it was really crazy because somehow he ended up getting a protected passed pawn on h6. And then I was dead in any kind of king and pawn endgame or anything like that. It was a very frightening situation. So we do have a fair amount of space. It's like b4. Do we just take space here with a5? It's a very, very strange position. I mean, with these locked pawn chains, it's not clear what's a good bishop, what's a bad bishop. I mean, I've got a bishop buried on g7. Probably should come back to f8 for any hope of breathing. But now I'm putting more pawns on dark squares on a5, so it's a confusing situation. Such a closed position. The knights are very good. Even queen d5 is worth considering. Would give him a protected passed pawn, but at the same time gives me a great outpost for a knight at e6. I think in a vacuum this is a bad move. I should probably just play queen d7. This asset is too strong. This protected passed pawn on e5. I probably should play queen d7 instead. But still, I think black's okay. But I think it leaves me in a sort of defensive situation where I'll have difficulty transposing into like king and pawn endgames with a very, very powerful passed pawn on e5. On the other hand, I'll have a great outposted knight on e6 if he chooses to do this. So it kind of cuts both ways. But I think, in general, it's a kind of concession for me to give him this. But objectively, the position is equal after queen d7 or whatever. Rook e1. Maybe king f7 is not a bad move here. Notice his knight is very badly placed. He played that. I'm not overly concerned about h5. This rook is lateral. Has lateral movement, that's why I'm moving rook e7. I want to coordinate my rooks. Eventually break with b5, b4. I don't think he has anything on the h-file realistically. Maybe I have a better chance on the queen side. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to break through on the queen side. b5, maybe c4, b4. I also have the blocking move, h5. We can blockade. Maybe we can blockade. But I don't think it's necessary. You know, I don't really fear h5 here. I think that black is pushing in this position. I can improve my position. Double rooks. Prepare b4, c4. Maybe bishop f8 could help. But it's a tricky situation because that pawn can win a lot of endgames for white. So I have to be very careful what kind of endgame I would transpose to. Blockade strategy a la Nimzovich. Kind of controversial. Giving him a protected passed pawn. Now he's the one in time pressure. But he's got nothing on the h-file. For the moment. Where is he going? See, the problem is if I play c4, he might have bishop c5 sometimes. Looks pretty tough to break through here. Still equal. Now I might win a pawn. Now I'm winning. But this position was really objectively equal, probably most of the way. Okay, I have some more chances than he does, more breaks. But I don't really know. I don't really know. It's very complicated. I guess black is not worse, but I feel like he should have been all right. Just time pressure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obtaining a clearly winning position. Exactly. I mean, how was the route to the clearly winning position? The whole game counts, you know. It's not like who obtained the clearly winning position. Was it a perfect game? I mean, that's what really matters, you know. It's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. Constant Change is up next. So the typical murky, like closed Sicilian, very nasty and difficult to evaluate. I have no idea what was going on there. I'm not even sure if it was a good idea to play queen d5 and let him. And he certainly doesn't have to go into that structure, you know. So, but if I had to criticize white, I would say, you know, the whole idea of closing the king side with g5, taking pressure off the center, to push for h4, h5 in that particular position didn't seem right to me. I mean, it just doesn't seem like he's got... if he has a strong attack with h5, h6, if that was a real idea that was dangerous for me, then I could see justifying closing the king side with g5. But otherwise, you know, then I question the validity of White's plan with g5. So maybe it's better not to, you know, I think if I were playing White, I think it's better not to play this strategy with g4. Probably just play on the whole board, even on the queen side, and keep a kind of balanced position. Constant change seems like he stepped out or something, so maybe I'll abort this game and resume when he comes back. Alright, m4-7, 8-3. Do you like the London system? Well, I mean, you know, you saw how much I hate the closed Sicilian, so I actually played the closed Sicilian a little bit. I remember I played with Josh Whiteskin, a closed Sicilian. I think I was a 2200 player, and Josh was like 2350. And at the end, I drew him with like rook against bishop, no pawns left. And I remember that. But yeah, I know it's German for lightning. I was wondering if it's also like something like that in French, because these Latin languages, you know, they're kind of tricky. So what I was going to say was the closed Sicilian London system, closed positions. I think my problem is that we're playing these 15-minute games, and what are more or less like 15, 20-minute games. And these closed position openings, the closed Sicilian, the London system, are really, really like tough games to play with this time control. You know, when it's an open position and the pieces are flying and there's tactics, you know, that's actually easier for me to play in a fast game. But the deeper thinking kind of closed positions, I find difficult to play as quickly as like 10-minute or 15-minute games. London system is very, very solid. It's probably the most solid opening White can possibly play. If you wanted to play against the computer, for example, and you wanted to play something that was really, really tough for it to crack, I think the London system would probably be your best choice of anything. You know, you don't have a bad piece. Your structure is very solid, and I think that it's an excellent opening. There's a little trend going on at the moment, you know, with even Magnus and some top players playing it on occasion. I don't think that's going to last, but it's a great system. But I think that a lot of people who only play that system, like the London system or whatever it is, they're doing themselves a disservice. Like, I knew this international master, Stephen Muhammad. I don't know whatever happened to that guy, but like, he's an IM who's rated around 2400. I mean, the only opening he ever played was the London system. Like, every game he would play the London system, the London system, the London system. But I think if you only play one opening like your whole career, you'll never grow, you know. So I've actually seen it, it's actually something I've seen a pattern. A lot of players, this is weird, it's like accelerated Queen's Indian. Bishop a6 here. I guess e3 is probably good for White. But it's playable for Black, this. I think that people often get addicted to just one system, and they need to not become like totally fixated on just one thing. You know, that's the danger. They become reliant and only learn to play the London system, nothing else. So you need to be broad-minded and play other stuff too. But I think the London system is a good system as a kind of backup. I even played it on occasion myself. If you want to study like classic games, you should go back and study Rubinstein's games. Rubinstein was probably the greatest player ever, who played the London system on a regular basis. One of the many systems that he played with White. But he was a good example of the right way to do it. I mean, he also played a lot of like main lines, you know, d4 main lines. So he would just mix in these closed queen pawn systems sometimes. Reputation as an opening for old men because the moves are easy to remember. Well, I think it has a reputation as an opening for club players. You know, I don't think it's necessarily about old men, but I guess more club players are old men. You know, it has a kind of, you know, chess club at the basement of the church kind of feeling about it. But there's a reason for that, exactly. You don't have to memorize a lot of theory. But a lot of good players were taught to play these closed queen-pawn openings. I've talked about Kamsky, Dreyev. M4-7 said, thought about 2 bishop a6. Yeah, that's way too early. D4 bishop a6. Yeah, it's too early. I could even play like b3, and your bishop. I could play b3, c4 maybe. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it does look. It looks a little suspicious, a little too creative. Trying to prove the bishop on a6 is not well placed here. But the young players in the Soviet era, even the late Soviet era, you know, guys like Kamsky and Dreyev, were trained by their trainers not to focus on openings, you know, so that their technique, Karpov was like this, kind of following the Karpov example, trained to play simple openings so they could just master technique in endgames and not have to waste a lot of time on openings. Today's different, though. I think openings are easier to learn, so how can I really benefit from this early bishop a6? I'm not sure I've proved anything here, to be perfectly honest. I could play bishop a3, trading my bad bishop. Doesn't seem all that scary for black. I don't feel like I have much here. English is also kind of deep for a short time frame. I agree, Super Patzer. But I know the English so well. It is like a closed Sicilian in many instances. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think wild tactical positions are easy for me to calculate quickly. I don't have to make very long-winded strategic decisions. I can calculate quickly, but my problem is making long-term decisions in complex positions. That's where we're running into trouble on time. Not that it takes me a long time to calculate. I make mistakes in calculation, but I'm going to make a decision here. This is kind of risky in a sense to play b takes c and go for this hanging pawn structure. Now, having done that, though, I'm going to how to say this? I'm going to I can't think of the word. Spacing on the word I wanted to use. It's all right. Not a linguist. So I just want to strike before he can play knight c6, because if he gets in knight c6, knight coming to b4, and sometimes knight c6, knight a5, he can put pressure on my structure. He's also, hopefully, he could play like d4. So I thought knight e5. I'm switching from a game where I'm trying for a concrete initiative or attack and looking more for structure here. He has a hole on c6. He can be forced to play queen e8 and recapture with the queen on e7. This is not my original plan. I think I'm going to have to go with it, though. Hopefully this bishop will be an advantage. Long range piece. It was absolutely not my plan. But I think now I have to take what I've got, We actually drifted a little in terms of development here. We should have a tiny advantage, I would think. This is not notoriously well placed in this kind of hanging pawn structure. Reshevsky talks about that in an excellent book, The Art of Positional Play, which I highly recommend. He talks about the knight on c6 being better in this kind of hanging pawn sort of situation. But anyway, black is even a tiny bit ahead in development here. Very club player plays the exchange French as white, of course. And it's hard to win as black. I remember famously in the early 90s or late 80s, there was a game where Nigel Short played the French. Some guy in like a candidates tournament, or like the last round of a candidates tournament, or some big event, tried to draw him with the exchange French, but Short won anyway. I'm not a huge Nigel Short fan, but in that case, you know, I mean, you're definitely rooting for the guy trying to beat the exchange French. But the exchange French, another club opening, yeah. That's a good idea for a book, actually, like beating club openings. That would be an excellent idea for a master to write a book about just that, you know. Beating things like the London system, the exchange French, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now we're getting behind in development. We've got a long-range bishop here. But I'm not really sure how to play this situation. Knight d2. Holding the c4 square. Knight c3 is a better square in general. And I don't like that my bishop is unprotected in this position. It's kind of a dodgy situation. I'm not certain this is a good move. But I didn't want him to isolate my pawn on c4. Trying to make an open repertoire that... my phone is vibrating, I know. I have a message, but I didn't think it was relevant to the stream. Something about a poker game tonight. I'm almost sure. Alright, so what about queen c2 versus queen e2? I was going to play queen e2, but... queen c2 is interesting as well. This looks like a natural move to me, you know, to the d file. Black had an interesting move there. Actually, he could have played e5, which would tremendously complicate the situation. Then I was thinking about maybe even bishop f5. But I think e5 was the gutsy way to go. What I don't want him to do is get these pawns rolling. If that happens, I'm in trouble. I mean, I could exchange on d5. I mean, time pressure again. Anyway, so you're trying to make an opening repertoire that suits me. I found that with black, I like French Nimzo type structures, but can't decide what I should play with white. Well, I mean, if you like the French and Nimzo with black, I can't imagine you're going to be playing e4 with white. I mean, it's possible, but if you did, it would have to be like really close stuff, like the closed Sicilian and different kind of closed setups. Closed openings, like the French and the Nimzo, I would think would lean more toward d4 type stuff in general. I mean, there are lots of players who play everything, like Korchnoi. I mean, Tal played the French and the Nimzo, and he also played, but he played everything with white. He played e4, d4, whatever you want, you know. So these are universal players like Tal and Korchnoi, who just played every kind of position. Okay, well, it looks like black's gotten kind of passive. So he's threatening d4. Wait a minute. I'm not certain about this. Black has counterplay. I have an unopposed bishop, but speaking of the Nimzo, it's a little like a Nimzo or Bogo where he traded his bishop on c3. He has enough central control that it seems to somewhat justify giving up the bishop pair here. My main concern was not allowing d4. Not fully developed. Slightly better for white. You're messing up move order, or does getting good attack in the Nimzo rely on certain moves to be played by white? Oh, this is... I'm always trying for Nimzo attack, but end up with a bad position. I don't know what you mean by Nimzo attack exactly. I mean, the thing about the Nimzo Indian, it's like there's so many different type of positions that arise in the Nimzo Indian, you know. I don't really think of it as an attacking opening per se. It's just a really flexible defense. That would be how I would define it. Alright, yes, sir. You finally admitted you made a mistake with bishop a6. We won the battle of bishop a6. Now he goes back to a good diagonal, seriously. d4. It feels like d4 is becoming a threat. Knight e5? I don't know if I like that. Trading off that knight on g6. Take, take, take. Yeah, and queen e2 actually asked for trouble as well. This is tough. Black has counterplay here. Not really sure what to do. Just not enough time, man. I just have to make moves. There's not enough time to play this position correctly. It's so disappointing. Black has enough play to justify the hanging pawns. It gives him extra control of the center, these two pawns. That offsets the power of my long-range bishop. He's trying to play d4, which would activate his guy on the long diagonal. Not really sure what to do here. Prophylactic moves. b4 is controversial. Strategic idea used many times in these type of positions. Maybe I should have gone for it there. It's still in the air. It's not giving me too much time to calculate. Very tough game, though. Difficult for both sides. Just a waiting move. I mean, I gave him my bishop, but I was kind of paralyzed. I didn't want to play bishop d3 and allow c4. And f7 loses on time. I mean, this position, I'd really like to keep my bishop pair after knight to d6. But, you know, this just doesn't look good to me to allow c4. So I think the final analysis, neither side ever had a huge advantage in this game, but it was very, very difficult and complicated. Okay, Miotz has changed his challenge to something ridiculous. I don't know, Miotz seems to troll me with these challenges. He doesn't ever really challenge to a normal time control. Something between 5 and 8 minutes with a 3 to 5 second increment, Miotz. Earlier you were challenging me to 5-6, which I would have accepted, but you changed it now to 10-3, which is too long. So we're going to play constant change if he's back. Only drawback in French is light square bishop, but I have to learn to deal with it. Well, yeah, I mean that's an important concept. Certain openings have I hope constant changes here. This is the second time I started a challenge. Certain openings when you're black especially have that one bad piece. The Queen's Gambit declined, and the French have the bad white squared bishop. The Queen side bishop, the Queen's bishop, is generally in chess the piece that's oftentimes the last one to be developed. And I've given little speeches here and there about how I learned with white, like in the English opening, for example. Oftentimes the Queen's bishop can just remain on its original square and be developed effectively from its original square. But when you're black, usually that's not the option. You don't have more space, and you have to get the piece out. Finally, there are other openings where different pieces are bad. You know, like the Queen's Indian defense, constant change. I don't know what he's doing. This is the second time we started a game, but I had to abort. So I'll play IK core 1. A Queen's Indian defense, you have a bad knight on b8. That's very, very problematic to get into the game. So yeah, there's certain defenses especially that have concretely problematic pieces. The Caro-Kann, for example, is different from the French because you're going out of your way to get the bishop to f5, the bad bishop. Then you play a French-like structure with the bishop outside the pawn chain. But the problem with the French, the problem with the Caro-Kann as opposed to the French, is that instead of like having a bad piece, you have to, in the main line, you have to trade your strong point on d5 on e4 and give up the center. And I think that's the problem in the Caro-Kann, or just the advanced variation where white has more space in general. So every defense has different kind of weaknesses. Okay, Corin, I'm going to get started here. All right, let's play e4 actually. I played queen pawn already. Welcome everybody to my stream. I just want to let everyone know I also have a YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. We do upload all the live streams to the channel, and I also try to do a video every week. Last week being the exception, but most weeks I try to do like an informative video of some kind of either review of my games or analysis of like a Grandmaster game or something like that. So check out Video Chess Training on YouTube, and don't forget to like and subscribe. IK core 1 is playing the modern defense. This is a very hyper modern and interesting system. I think it's ideal for playing for a win against a weaker player. I think it's risky to play it against stronger players. Where did I see it recently? Yes. In Gibraltar, there was a big open called Gibraltar Masters or whatever. I noticed there was a game where Ivanchuk was white, and this Canadian guy, Bindi Cheng, played g6 against Ivanchuk. I mean, if your repertoire is just a modern defense, that's fine, you know. I mean, I think you've got to play your repertoire. But given a choice, you know, I think it's kind of risky to play the modern defense against stronger players. It's an opening where you give white a lot of space. It's inferior. Theoretically and practically, it's inferior to other more solid defenses. So my opinion on the modern defense is excellent winning attempt against weaker players, but I don't think it's really a great idea to play it against stronger players. So here we're transposing to the Pirch defense, which is like the modern, a risky defense where you give white the center. Let's go for Austrian attack. Raise in 10. I don't play the Austrian attack because you have to have dozens of like 25 move variations memorized to play the Austrian attack. even 15 years ago, Grandmaster Chernin produced a book called Pierce Alert, which highlighted the c5 variations, and just in the c5 variations alone, both sides have to be insanely prepared. My friend, International Master Jorge Samur Hasban, he was playing the Pierce for a while in the c5 lines, and he's a very, very theoretical player with an incredible memory. And I remember analyzing with him, how insane those Austrian attack variations are. So that's something that I think you're okay if you have a lot of time in your hands to analyze. It's kind of like the Yugoslav attack against the dragon. I mean, just you need like weeks of preparation, really, to learn that those kind of Austrian attack lines. It's not really my style either. I'm more strategic, and the lines in the Austrian attack are very, very tactical and very chaotic. So c5 though, this is a good try actually. Speaking of the dragon, Black would like to transpose to the dragon. Now, I remember that Karpov had some games with like d takes c. Maybe Karpov had a game against somebody, but these lines are difficult. I'm not sure White can really get an advantage with this d takes c. So we could transpose to a classical dragon, or we can play d5, which is like this is actually transposing to what do they call it? Schmid-Benoni. Probably the best move for White. A rated game. Probably Miots. No, we don't have any rated games now, but thanks for the warning, Jeroen. And thanks for being here. We didn't have Jeroen, our moderator, for a few days because he was getting a new internet connection, so it was pretty chaotic without him. By the way, congratulations on the Patriots winning the Super Bowl. I think Jeroen was rooting for them. Miots fixed his challenge to 5-5. Thanks for that, Miots. I don't know if we've ever actually got a game against Miots, because he's usually challenged me to some pretty bizarre time controls. Yes, I have played him before, okay. The good old memory's kind of failing on me. I don't know. Can't remember, though, every game I played here. e6. I think I had this position with Black against Grandmaster Mark Hebden. Not a system I play very often, but I do occasionally play the Modern too. And not taking my own advice, I played the Modern against a stronger player. But Hebden has a very annoying system. He plays against the King's Indian, and I think I wanted to avoid that. But I don't know why I didn't play like d4, knight f6, knight f3, e6 against Hebden. Come to think of it, it was a strange decision. I'm not sure why I would avoid an Imzo Queen's Indian type of line against Hebden. I don't know what I was afraid of there. But anyway, I went on to lose. This seems like it was the position, but I'm thinking he had rook e1 at some point. Maybe that's the line. Bishop takes rook e1. It seems so It seems so uninspiring for White. Take rook e1? Doesn't look like we have too much there. Yeah, I had a friend who bet a lot of money on a football game, an overtime bet. He won like $5,000 betting on the Patriots winning the overtime. This guy is a really hardcore sports bettor, so he was pretty happy. Although my predictions are not good. I'm not going to try to predict any major events. If I go with my instinct, I'm wrong. And then if I try to like go against my instinct because I'm always wrong, then I would have been right. So it doesn't seem to matter. Like, whatever I think is going to happen, it's the opposite. And then when I try to bet the opposite, then it's wrong anyway. So I do not bet sports for serious money. Anyway, I do live in New England when I'm in the United States, so I'm kind of a Patriots fan. So bishop takes e6. Another move here would be knight to g5. Even bishop g5, maybe fighting for the d5 square. But why do I have the feeling that Hebden played rook e1? It's very strange. Doesn't seem right. Rook e1, d5. Pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn, knight takes. That doesn't seem like anything for white. It doesn't really make sense. Something is different about this game than my game with Hebden. But I don't understand how that's possible. Knight g5. He's got a number of things to do against knight g5. Rook e1. Again, I'm just out of time. Maybe it's d5. Doesn't seem right. Hebden's known for his tricky systems, though. I don't know how it went. It was this line, but somehow it was different. I don't understand what was different about the position. d5, e6 had to be the game. He had to take on e6. It had to be this exact position, but I thought he played rook e1. But I don't really see what I'm supposed to do. Now he played rook e8. I was afraid of d5. Maybe I'm missing something there. But rook e8 is definitely not the move I played. Although it may be reasonable. $1,500. Plays the opening perfectly every time. He's kind of an opening specialist, 1,500. Not certain about this. bg5. Got to do something though. I only have 17 seconds left. Trying to induce him to like weaken himself on the king side, which he does. But still, I think black has reasonable play. Every time I've played this guy, I've gotten in trouble or not gotten anything out of the opening. Now maybe we can take this pawn. Looks like sort of a trap, though. If I take on d6, he has sort of trappy ideas. I can't wait to look this up with the opening encyclopedia or chess base. Objectively, maybe trading on e6 isn't the key line, but I just did it because I remember Hebden doing it against me. Though it would be better to know the follow-up. Otherwise, I'd want to maintain my strong point on d5. Doesn't look like we have anything here. I'm just happy not to be worse. There was a trap, like bishop takes d6, queen b6, which looked actually dangerous for white. Or queen takes d6, queen b6. Looked very dangerous for white. So, you guys are wondering why I didn't take that pawn. It had everything to do with that. Setting me up for like queen takes d6, queen b6 with initiative for black. Probably my only chance is to win on time here. I mean, rook d1 drops my whole queen side. But he made a big mistake trading his white squared bishop. He may have some compensation, but I don't think that's a good move. Maybe he's still okay. Looks like black's still okay here. Oh, yes. In this endgame we can play all day. A little better for white. Excellent move, bishop e5. Maybe I should take. Or should I tie him down on the long diagonal first? I don't know. About taking on c6. Take. This king and pawning should be good at, after this. I don't know if it's enough though. Maybe this is just a draw, despite the bad structure for black. Probably still a draw. F4, C4 check, takes, king C5, black's better. This reminds me of a king and pawn game that John Spielman drew against Short. Maybe in Gibraltar or somewhere recently. It was like down a pawn and it was still a draw. He resigned here. He's better. I mean, king g6, maybe black's just winning, but he resigned. Black might be winning after king g6. I don't think there were too many mistakes. Bishop takes... No, it's a draw, apparently. Wow, I can play g4. I thought maybe I was lost. But I was afraid to play g4. Seems like black's better here. No, but he doesn't have time. h3. I was afraid of h3. Yeah, this is g5 I didn't see. That's the point. Okay. Alright, guys. So it was a draw. He resigned in a drawn position. Ah, that's normal. And Melliman. h3. That's cool. Constant change. I'm going to give him one more chance to play. Did I have a4 instead? I don't think there was ever a winning position. It was all a draw. The king and pawning was a draw, right, all the way from the get-go, probably. So I shouldn't give up my bishop for the knight. But anyway, the position was objectively only like microscopically better for white. His knight was fairly good. I guess I shouldn't trade bishop for knight, but I thought he'd mess up the king and pawn endgame being like a 1500. He didn't. You know, constant change is playing this time. All right, so let's play e4, e5 for something a little bit different. The problem is I didn't see that I had g4, h3, g5. I was short of time, and I was starting to panic because I thought, oh my god, I'm like lost. Because if I don't have that, then I think any other move probably loses for white. I couldn't get around on the other side of the pawn fast enough. So I thought I had made like a tragic mistake, but apparently not. All right, the Petrov's defense. Someone asked me yesterday when I was doing my simul stream, you know, what do you think of the Petrov defense? I think it's a very good opening. d4 is a good move for white, though. One of the best. What about d6? Pawn takes pawn, knight takes e4. What's the deal with that line? I did lose to constant change last time, I think. Was it this line? It had to be. I made a crazy move. I think we played this variation once before, and I got a little too ambitious. But knight takes e5 is not usual. You're supposed to play bishop d3 here. So now I gotta remember what the deal is with this. Well, I think this just transposes to some weird, like, exchange French. d6, knight f3, you know, and like it's equal. It's a shame that Spinal Tap Chess isn't here. We knew this master from New Jersey who used to play. He used to play this against the Petrov. There's no tricks like knight takes h5 or something, right? I don't think so. Yeah, this is just. Wait a minute now. He has knight takes f7, king takes f7, queen h5 check. He does have that. No, I'm misremembering something here. That's a problem. d6, knight takes f7. Yeah, but we have an answer for that, no? I don't play the Petrov every day, so I've got to make sure I know what I'm doing here. Knight takes f7, queen f6, or queen e7 actually. That's the trick. There's an intermezzo with queen e7, threatening knight c3 check, I guess. Yes. All right, so let's just make sure we're on the same page here. d4 is a signature Morphy move to the Petrov. It's a good move, you know. It's as good as knight takes e5 probably. Those two moves, one or the other, are the best. So this is just essentially this is an exchange French, basically. I mean, structure-wise, it's absolutely an exchange French. Maybe safer to play bishop e7. Knight c6 could also be a move. We could transpose to main line. Knight e5. Yeah, actually, we're transposing to main line. It's not exactly an exchange French. It's the structure is the same, but very unusual move order by white. The most dangerous line is knight takes e4, bishop d3, and I think that's how I lost to him last time. He played bishop d3, d5, pawn takes e5, and knight c6. I think something like that. I was too aggressive with black and made a terrible move early on. Now h3 is quiet, very quiet for white. I could play knight to b4 here, but it looks kind of early. Bit early to play that option. We'll just play solidly. Stalemate. I didn't have time to check that ending. I don't think the computer will find a win in that king and pawn endgame. Doubt it. Oh no, we did look briefly with the computer, right? It was a draw. But I didn't see it, you know, with 7 seconds left. Now knight c3, this is a good move. So, tough decision in these kind of positions, really. I don't really like strengthening white's center by exchanging on c3 usually. But none of black's options are really ideal. f5's risky. Bishop f5 maybe. But the bishop's pinned. And then rook e1 or something. Well, that's actually probably a good move. Bishop f5 makes sense, developing a piece. I might even remember this somewhere in my subconscious. It's not very fun for black. He's using no time. He's played the opening in 1 minute, and I've used a lot of time. Then I have to play this very, very boring position. White's a tiny bit better. I'm pretty sure I remembered this. This isn't just random. I think this was recommended by the book or something, but it's not very fun for black. White's slightly better. There's got to be a better way to play this for black. This is just passive. Black's just groveling for a draw here. The fact that he has double pawns is practically meaningless. Although this is not a bad move, I honestly prefer queen takes d3. Developing that piece, I would think would be slightly superior. I'm almost sure that like an engine would agree with me. But this is okay, you know, I have no problem with it objectively, but I think that queen takes is a little bit better. You've got queen f5, queen controlling b5. It looks better to me. Although white's certainly fine here too. I feel more safe against c takes d. Now choosing a plan for black is kind of tough. We've got this weakness on b7. I want to fight for the e-file. There's no active counterplay. I want to develop my queen. So we've got a number of objectives we have to achieve here. Queen d7 is vulnerable to knight e5 at some point, but yeah, that's a good arrow. Okay, as long as my knight's on c6, it's not a problem. I looked at it and you had a win at one point. He blundered h4. h4. Not sure if we're on the same page. Phrase for the day. Bishop f4. He's playing pretty safe. But I'm happy to trade pieces and equalize here. Now, you could even consider taking with the pawn, but I'm not going to do that. Nah, I mean, isolated double pawns here. We don't really need that aggravation. So this is about equal. Queen b3. But I don't know what we're talking about. No proper outpost for the knight on c6, that's for sure. After c takes d, there's no knight a5, knight c4. So, rook b8 is always a hassle. This happens in the Alekhine's defense too. Sometimes this open b-file nonsense is very, very aggravating. Lesser of the evils, I guess, is b6, weakening my structure. Don't play the Petrov if you need to beat a lower-rated opponent, okay? Mr. Ivanchuk played against Pop Petra, Hungarian woman. Quite a talented young lady. She's 2300. Why would Ivanchuk play the Petrov against a player who's 400 rating points lower? I don't know, you know. Because Ivanchuk is in outer space normally. And then, like, in a totally drawn position, she let him win somehow. It was just the worst practical choice by Paschall ever. It kind of felt like he was purposely giving her a draw, but she didn't know how to draw a drawn king and pawn endgame, so lost a bishop endgame instead. It was really weird. I mean, I'd just like to talk to Paschall and ask him, you know, did you really just want to give her a draw and she just wouldn't accept it, more or less? Is that what was going on there? Because I really didn't understand. All right. White's still like microscopically better. F6 maybe. We don't have to play it right away. He is winning control of the E file. Maybe I should have played rook f8 and king f8, but there were some dangers of like knight g5 and other stuff. I'm not sure the E file is that deadly here. In this situation, there's only so much happening in a position. So we're going to keep him off of e5 and hope that can slowly creep out. You know, c4 is sort of double-edged for white. He has to be careful about doing that. I think he'd like to open up the diagonal against my king, but white's a tiny bit better, but I just don't think it should be enough, you know, for him to win the game. But check him out. He's got 5 minutes, you know. He's played this whole game in just 2 minutes. Typical. Yeah, that's a good hashtag. Uh-oh, looks like we're losing some of the stream here. Not much, but keep me posted if there's any problem with the stream. My internet was pretty shaky last week. We had an issue, and my computer's also needs to free up some disk space. So I'm not sure which of the above is the problem, but could be either one. Everything was cool in last night's stream, but could be different today. We're dropping 1% of frames. Now it's a little better. I think it's the internet, most likely. Some kind of lag in the internet. Didn't the computer think there was a win somewhere? Did I already answer that? Man, I think that we're talking about that last king and pawn endgame, but no. Someone mentioned something about h4, but I don't think h4 ever took place, did it? I was analyzing at the end, after it was over. There was no win, according to the engine. Although you have to take the engine's advice with a little bit of grains of salt, because sometimes there might be some sort of malfunction and it didn't have enough time to calculate. So you can't just take it as always the word of God or the oracle. But if you give the engine enough time, or any chess engine that's like somewhat competent, I mean, you can take a chess engine from 15 years ago and be fairly confident if you give it a few minutes to think about the position. There was no win. We are dropping frames, but it doesn't look too bad. Does knight e7 f5 make sense? Yeah. I was also concerned about white playing knight h4 f5, but I can meet that with g6. He played c4. I mean, this seems like a very, very risky thing to do. Looks like I'm dropping a pawn, though. He does have the bad structure. But I didn't have enough time to calculate. I have knight d6. This is pretty bad for black. We're going to try to hang on. Pretty nightmarish endgame. Miscalculated c4 though. I had no time and I played blundered. He left me with no time to play. But it was a strange move. I mean, I could have played knight a5 right away. I mean, it wasn't dangerous for me, but I just spaced. I missed rook e6. So now white's just winning. It looks completely winning. I don't think I had a defense there objectively, though. I'm not sure this was the right plan. I mean, it's very logical to centralize the king, but in this position it may have been a totally wrong idea, tactically. Now it looks like black has drawing chances. He's put himself in an awkward situation. I may well be able to survive. No guarantees, but at least we have a chance. Oh my god. What a risky plan. He's like putting his king on e4. Wow. Almost getting mated. I doubt white's winning, but he still has some chances. Maybe not. Yeah, he's actually got to be careful here. I really thought he was going to play king f5 there. Now my knight is almost trapped. Oh, man. Okay, I'm going to have to give up the b6 pawn. That's all right. So we have some counterplay. Maybe not enough. I just want to like trade off everything if I can, but I have mating threats too. This is an absolutely terrible endgame by both sides. Oh, he's got counterplay here too. Well, how many mistakes I've made in this game? It's like too many to count. Just rook e7 and pinning me. This was it's just an atrocity, this endgame. Horrible by both sides. I was just totally lost. And then, in some moment, I might have been... Well, I guess I was never equal, but I should have drawn easily. And then, here I'm in trouble again. After rook e7, I may be lost again. So there are multiple changes of evaluation there. If we look at the centipawns, it was totally misplayed by both sides, but more excuse for me in that I had no time to make moves. Melipin, King Hunter, Kawalu, Miots, and Muleskinner. Miots was challenging me before. I mean, I think he should be up next, but lost his challenge or something. So he got overconfident. Well, he always does that. That he plays too fast. This is the tragedy of this player. So if he would just take his time and nail it down, he had me completely crushed. But got carried away with the king there. His king looked good, but it ended up being vulnerable to my knight and rook. But he had king f5, though. He was thinking and thinking and thinking forever. And it looked to me like actually king f5 was stronger than retreating back to king f4 and king g3. Then I immediately made another mistake, allowing rook e7 at the end. I should probably bring my king. Maybe it wasn't so easy. I thought I was equal, but I'm not sure. In retrospect, we'll have to look at that game, because I thought with his king pushed back, I'd be equal, but this rook check created some serious problems. I'm dropping my h7 pawn. No, the h pawn's on h5, isn't it? Yeah, so if I bring my king back to f8 instead of playing king g6 at the end, or even king e8, I have to bring my king back instead of going up to g6. Where's my king on f7, right? King f8 or king e8 instead of king g6. Black is probably going to hold on there in that ending. I don't know what Miots is doing, but he's not here. Alright, so Melamin, King Hunter, Kawalu, Muleskinner, and Bulbul. Bulbul, if it's not, if there's no established rating, he's got rating though, bullet games. Alright, Melamin. Constant change, you played that move but lost interest because it came back. What? c4 knight a5. Of course I should play c4 knight a5, but white is still better. It's just that I think that black's probably okay after knight a5. I missed the combination with rook e6, and I have to play knight a5, and I'm probably lost there. But objectively, c4 was a good practical try for white. So let's play with Melamin here. I don't understand what constant change meant. I played that move but lost interest because it came back. Lost interest. Lost interest? You mean lost interest in what way? In what exactly were you referring to constant change? In the game or a particular concept? Not sure how to interpret that. But he got overconfident like the Falcons. He's always overconfident. No, I don't think it's overconfident. He just gets, he doesn't like to be in time pressure, I think. That's why he plays so fast. There are different reasons why people play fast. I think that constant change actually gets nervous when he's in time pressure, so he doesn't get in time pressure. But he needs to take his time. Melamin says, I will win. Well, usually when they say they're going to win, they do. That's been my experience. Though, this is a pretty solid line for white. Symmetrical English. Probably the main line of the symmetrical English. White has to make some bad moves to lose this position. I lost internet. Oh, lost internet. I can't read, Lost interest. Yeah, I was going to say, why did you lose interest? I thought he lost interest once he didn't have a winning position anymore. Lost internet. We're looking better with the internet here. Looks alright at the moment. Thank you, Ancient Row. You cleared that up for us. It's always a tricky thing to play with your king in the endgame. I mean, the rule is that it's supposed to be active. And, he's cutting it close there. Rook b8, though. I think that's just a bad move. But maybe not. That might transpose, actually. Rook b8. Normally, black plays bishop e6. No, I think you've got to play bishop... No, not bishop e6 is a move. But the normal move is... The old move is like a6. a6. Then rook b8. All right, and I looked at this once. Bishop e6 is a newer try. Well, it's not new, but it's been analyzed and reanalyzed. But rook b8 is interesting. Is there a way to exploit this? Bishop e3. That's not going to do anything. Knight b5 doesn't have a point, so. Is there a drawback to rook b8 as opposed to like a6? Well, yeah, this knight transfer does happen sometimes, come to think of it. But it looks a little slow at this point, the early stage. And, you know, something like bishop f4 looks pretty fishy. But you never know. I mean, that might be the right idea. It's not a bad idea, bishop f4, actually. Strangely enough. It just may not work, though. If I play bishop f4, this mechanism with c5, he could always play e5 and kind of like call the whole thing into question. Now, bishop f4 feels a little artificial. So what am I supposed to do? Just transpose to a normal line, or do you see anything? Bishop e3 doesn't seem to do anything. He just plays a6. No, wait a minute. Right, so bishop e3, a6, bishop a7. That's the point. See, I did look at this once. I'm not certain this is a big deal, though. Bishop a7, rook a8, bishop d4. It's probably worth a try. Alright. These positions are very, very subtle. And I'll be the first one to admit that probably white can't get an advantage. Probably white can't get an advantage in any opening. So, but in the English, it's like you're playing for like a infinitesimal kind of advantage. Your sights are set on a very small edge. This symmetrical variation is, in my opinion, the main line. Now I play bishop f5, which is fine. Clearly, we don't have too many choices for a queen position here. But your a7 pawn is hanging with tempo. He has several different options. I mean, b6, a6, rook c8 even. Ever so slightly weakening the queen side. So I play h3, keep you off of g4. Then queen c8 wins a pawn. There's also knight b5 here. That allows knight e4, which could be kind of nasty. So I'm thinking I don't have time for anything fancy. I probably just need to develop with like rook c1 or something of that ilk. He said he's gonna win. That's a bad sign. How do you feel about the Joko piano opening? Well, it's a question of whether you're talking about the old school Joko piano with c3, or like the Joko pianissimo, as they call it. Maybe I should just play bishop h6 here and settle for some kind of micro advantage. I'm running out of time. I don't like trading pieces. But it's not exactly a Marazzi. My pawn is not on e4. And I think that against the Marazzi, this exchange is not great. But here, it makes a little more sense. I've got a pretty good bishop on g2. All right. White's slightly better. Nothing earth-shaking May end up having to play e4 anyway. I don't really like it though. Looks like black is equalized. You know what though? I could have a pretty dangerous outside pass pawn around here. Keeping the rook on a1. Because sometimes a4. If he had played b5, I was thinking take, and a4 actually. With a pretty strong outside pass pawn. Though perhaps black had queen a5 at the end of the line there. Yeah. He should have played b5. That's the thematic idea. If you're a real beginner, you want to get through the opening without issues. Yeah, absolutely good advice. Bishop d7. We're slightly better, but I'm not sure knight d5 is enough. Take. Move the queen. We do have a pretty nice position. I'm not sure it's enough, though. Could even second exchange with rook c6 and probably never lose. Alright. I'm just running out of time. I don't think this is the best move, but I'm trying to keep it simple with just 2 minutes left. Guys, we're doing this Blitz and Classical stream here every Monday to Friday from 10 to 12:30 CET. Central European time. We're 1 hour ahead of Greenwich Mean Time, basically. Many beginners like the Roy Lopez because it's very equal but still interesting. Kind of a strange comment. I mean, why is the Roy Lopez very equal? I think it's like extremely the most complicated opening. Queen e3, queen d4 check. See if I can tie him down to this pawn and this pawn. And then try to double on the file. I mean, I could play rook c6, but I'm afraid that he takes it and he can like give back in exchange later on. Probably he'll hold on there. I'm not sure that objectively it's enough to win, per se. Rook c3, rook c4. No, not rook c4, probably. Just rook c3. This may not be enough. I've never played this opponent before. But I don't usually get comments that say I will win. Maybe it's just joking. Black complicated, but no firm advantage. I mean, I just think that maybe the Joko piano is a little simpler than the Roy Lopez objectively. I think the Roy Lopez is a very strategic game, you know, whereas in the Joko you're developing your bishop to c4, attacking f7. It's like, how's he recapturing here on c8? I'm attacking both e7 and b6. He said he was just kidding. I get scared, man, because some people have actually, you know, that was an interesting moment. You could have taken with the queen, maybe penetrated down here on c3 with some kind of counterplay. I'm not sure if it's enough or not. But I'm not sure I'm winning anyway. This is... I've allowed a lot of simplification here. I'm just not sure it's enough. I'm going to give it a try, but... Exchange, sacrifice. h4, h5. The position is just too symmetrical, and I can't seem to get in on the 7th. Oh, I can get in on the 7th, though. The problem is, there's a big problem here. The problem is there's a big problem here. Queen c3 check, move the king, queen c7, rook c8, queen takes b7, rook takes c1 check, bishop f1 and bishop h3, and I can resign. That is a big issue. So we'll play h4. Looks like black is probably hanging on. I don't see how to win this. We're a tiny bit better. I mean, I'm sure a computer could grind out a win here, but in a practical game, I'm just not sure it's enough. I don't like playing knight d5, but I was short of time as always. Why not queen d4? Well, I just wanted to kind of keep that in reserve. You know, it's like checking for the sake of check. Now I have queen c3 though. I mean, maybe this is winning now. Maybe not. But at least I have something here. Queen c7. Still not enough though. It's not enough. I mean, I can go to the 7th, but it doesn't win. Well, I was about to lose on time. That's always good. Slightly weakened his king side. And we're keeping surveillance on e7. Maybe I can play like king h2, bishop h3 to trade the white square bishops. I don't think that's going to work. It's probably not the best move, but it's a move with 5 seconds left. Could have tried queen h6. How come everybody's faster than me? Well, you had that now. Objectively, this is probably a draw. Defended really well. But I think knight d5 was wrong. Wasn't enough for me. I could still play for a win, though. I think white's a tiny bit better here. Probably not really much. So all games are draws. What's he thinking about here? Queen f8 or queen g8. He's got a bunch of pawns stuck on the wrong color. I have just one. So I guess we'll play it out. Wow. Bishop f5. Why would I do that? It's a really strange move to play queen d2. I could have played check and check. I think he was right when he said he would win. It's hard for him to force a win here, I would think. Objectively, it's still probably a draw. Now I have a lot of pawns stuck on white squares too after playing e4. Not really ideal. I don't think it's possible to make progress here. Wow. Saw that too. My last cheapo. Wow, dude sees everything. That's amazing. Oh no. Now a reversal of fortune. We were just lucky. Alright, Manlyman deserved a draw. If he had offered a draw, I would have accepted it, but he blundered the b5 pawn. Alright, man. Lucky for me. It was a good game. I can't play you again on the stream. Maybe some other time. If you guys do see me online, I'm willing to play with whoever. If you do run into me on lichess when I'm not streaming, feel free to send me a challenge. Rated or unrated off the stream, I don't mind. When I'm not commentating, rated is cool too. King Hunter, I think we played once and I lost. Played pretty quickly. It's 5-3. But that wasn't enough for me to win that game. I shouldn't have played knight d5 objectively. But played quickly. I decided to just try something practical. This is some weird line. I think maybe Tigran Petrosian II has played that. Objectively, I mean, it's a little maniacal for white to play g4, but anyway, you play it anyway later on, oftentimes in the closed Sicilian. So I suppose it should be okay. This guy just plays really fast, so alright, we'll play really fast. He just likes playing bullet, I think. Yeah. And maybe I should just play h6 in this kind of structure. Not sure. h5, pawn takes pawn, rook takes h5. Objectively, safer to play h6, I guess. But it's a bullet player. But it's not really my focus on playing the super fast games. Trying to turn a 5-minute game into bullet seems kind of strange to me. I would prefer to play the a3 time control. I don't have too much time to commentate when we do the 5-3 ones. And I don't want to get into ridiculous disadvantage on the clock. I don't think he threw the game. I think he just blundered his b5 pawn because he was moving quickly. It was easy to miss that. His king was relatively close to the pawn. He just played king e7, not remembering I could attack it. I hadn't attacked the b5 pawn like forever, and then he forgot that it could even be attacked, which I've certainly done a lot myself in similar kind of situations. Alright, so f4 square. Thinking about the f4 square here. Black looks pretty good. I could even play b5. It's a little anti-positional to play b5 though. Let him take with the pawn, take with the rook. That's probably giving him the c4 outpost. Still black would be good there. White's play is a bit strange. I mean g4 is fine, but I'd like to stop him from playing f4 if I can. Then he won't have any real way to use his kingside space advantage to his advantage long run. So this is just a fancy way of stopping f4. Guys, I also would like to thank everyone who's donated to support the stream. We do take donations via PayPal. Now f4 is possible. Bishop e5 might be worth considering. I don't want to play e5 under any circumstances. We're kind of thinking outside the box here. This bishop, it's worth its weight in gold. It's controlling this diagonal, now stopping f4. Really, I need time to get the rest of my pieces out with knight e7 and knight c6 to consolidate, control the dark squares here. If bishop takes, he has f4 with some counterplay. So I'm going to take with the pawn, I guess. Kick his knight back, and the situation is quite complicated, but I think it should be okay for black. He's got a very bad bishop. His dark squares are kind of weak, but he has more space on the king side, so I have to take care. I wonder if I played like rook b8 too quickly. Was it too passive to play h6 and g5? I don't know. But strategically, black looks okay. I mean, if he can't play f4, or if that's bad for him, then slowly his position isn't that great. The b4 on the queen side, that's a completely different concept. Maybe I should play b5 myself. He likes space, you can see that. Queen b6. Yeah, now he's put his bishop here on b2, so f4 is out. I need to securely defend this. Bishop maybe to d7 to lock down a4. Anyway, whoever donates to the stream and YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube via PayPal, I thank you very much. We've had a few donations already this year. And if you can't afford to donate, just take part in the stream and contribute. I really appreciate it. Bishop d7, it's a maneuver for white, it looks like. This knight. So he's kind of positional, King Hunter. You know, maneuvering, this is pretty sophisticated. A pretty sophisticated maneuver for him. I need to improve. So keep him off of a5 for the time being. But most importantly, I've got to get my pieces to good spots. Castling. This darn close Sicilian is so ridiculously locked. It's very hard to play, especially in a blitz game like this. I could play f5 at some point later on, but at the moment, I don't think that's really the right idea. Now we're switching plans. Controlling c1. I'd love to play knight e5, but maybe e5. Because this opens up this bishop. Maybe I just locked the position too much, though. Maybe it's going to be possible for me to make progress. Though he's very short of space. A knight there. That's fine. Objectively, this g4 pawn could be a target. So at the end of the day, we have very powerful bishop pair, entry points on the 7th. It's probably enough for black to win. These are falling. Knight g3 though. I want to rip this pawn off first and stop knight f5 check, which could be kind of nasty. Maybe he's got some way to hold this together. Rook check, king e6. Maybe I should just play back, or king f6. King e6. I mean, everything should really be winning here. It takes that guy. Well, I think it's just falling apart now for white. Rook b1. I have to admit I missed that. Oh, brother. All right. man, that's gotta be a problem for me. Oh, this is a disaster. I totally screwed this up. He's got mating threats with rook b6. He played this crazy bishop takes d4. I think I'm still better here. Wow. Objectively, I should be winning. Good game. Why is he telling me good game? Why is he resigning? It's a little early to resign, I guess. It's a weird moment to resign, though. Alright. It's not that obvious to a lot of people why he resigned. I mean, objectively, he's down a pawn with a worse structure. But he still has this outside pawn, so I think his resignation was a little surprising, but objectively, he's probably lost. My king is very strong. I have mating threats on the 7th rank. Kovalu, 8+3. Ruling stance. I think you started streaming almost a year ago. Yeah, I was talking about this like last week. Jeroen congratulated me. I did start streaming about a year ago. So it's basically do you remember the exact date when I went live? Well, I think I played on ICC a few sessions before I started. For like a week before I played on lichess. But I don't really like ICC. So it was just, hadn't discovered lichess. Trying to move twice in a row. Yeah, so it is our anniversary. You were pretty reluctant to move to other sites because you didn't know how to stream your browser window. Oh, you mentioned that, okay. You've been playing 15 minutes games. Yeah, if you look at my old games on Video Chess Training, my old streams, you'll probably find a few where I stream 15-minute games on ICC against random opponents. Actually, I like that. You know, playing those 15-minute games is very, very good training. It's just it's a little too long for the purpose of the streams. Those games take half an hour, and if we did those, it's only 5 games per stream. But maybe not a bad idea. I mean, to have like one stream a week where I did 15-0 type games. It's pretty cool. Something I would consider. Although we would be limited to just 5 games per stream. Maximum like 6 games per stream. If one of them was short. But I think that's worth considering. It's not gonna, you know, get as many people active playing against me. I play the English again. By the way, guys, on Wednesdays I do a stream where I play more stuff that I don't normally play. I call it Weird Wednesday, Unusual Openings. I'm not playing unsound openings, but like experimental kind of lines that I don't normally play, riskier stuff like Alekhein's defense and the Dutch. Maybe, for example, the King's Gambit lines that I don't know that well, but I like to play for fun. So that's what I do on Wednesdays. E6 here, very solid move for black. Pretty hard for white to blow black away with the E6 setups. So durable. Often transposing to either the hedgehog or like a kind of, well, more often like a Tarrasch for black. You have to stream longer. Yeah, that's actually another option. The problem is I do a lot of other stuff like private lessons, eat lunch. But it's not a bad idea that there could be like an extended stream, maybe like once a week. That's another good suggestion. If you guys have any suggestions, I really appreciate if you come forward with it. You can contact me via my chess email, which is videochesstrainer@gmail.com. videochesstrainer@gmail.com. Any kind of suggestions for how to improve the stream or like cool ideas that I could implement. Also, if you're interested in training or lessons, I still have availabilities oftentimes for private lessons here on lichess or other chess sites using Skype and whatnot. So that is that. I mentioned the YouTube channel. Guys, are going to be streaming for another 30 minutes here, more or less. So after this game, I imagine at least one more, and we'll play it by ear. Knight f6. One line that gives me a lot of trouble, actually, there is Larry Christensen favorite c4. One of the drawbacks for white in playing knight c3 early is these c4 lines. I feel those are kind of tough to play against, but not everyone's style, of course. So we're in more like traditional Tarrasch territory now. I've seen good players, Alvest, Christensen, play c4. I mean, it's an idea in the Tarrasch anyway. White, often faces c4 in the main line here. But it's interesting to try to implement it early, because what Christensen and Alvest do, I don't know where they got this line originally, but the idea is to play like bishop b4 and not necessarily put the knight on f6, but you can put the knight on e7 and not give white like bishop g5. So there's no pin and no easy way for white to put pressure on the d5 pawn. It's sort of borrowed from some lines in the Queen's Gambit, like the Rogozin line, Rogozin variation of Queen's Gambit, or Manhattan variation. That's it. They call it the Manhattan variation in one of the main lines, similar to the Vienna variation, the Queen's Gambit, where black plays like bishop b4 and c4. So if you do play the Tarrasch or this kind of opening, you could consider that, not playing knight f6 too early, and trying to play c4, bishop b4. Lunch is overrated. No, I mean, I'm serious now. Yeah, doing a longer stream is probably something I should do like once a week. So let's think about it. I'll make a note, and not a bad idea. But generally, I'm good with the 2.5 to 3 hour. I think that's the ideal time. But I don't see any reason why we couldn't try to do a slightly longer stream. Maybe like an extra hour. 5 hours is pretty brutal, but maybe like a 4-hour stream where we did 30-minute games. 4 hours is, let's see, we could play 2 games per hour minimum. They're like 8 games. That'd be cool. Like if I could get 4 hours, do minimally 8 games of 15-15. We call it like long classical. I don't know. Think of a good name for it. h6 here right away without the exchange on c5. I guess we're supposed to grab and take on c5. Can't remember anyone playing this against me. Black's main issue being the second pawn might fall in the center. He still has his original pawn to get back, so I don't recall facing this. Maybe there's some way for black to make it interesting, though. Although there are some instances where black can sacrifice a pawn and get some compensation going on. Unusual Wednesdays, Racing Kings it is. No, but then I'm not playing like variants. Although if you guys want to play Chess 960, that's something I'll do, like 2 games per stream. I'm totally open to playing Chess 960, which I think is very constructive. I'm basically using the streams as training for myself as well. I mean, it's sort of not only for the benefit of you guys, but for me too. That's why I don't do any like weird variants and stuff. I mean, I really want to make the maximum use of the time that we have here to help everybody else improve and help myself improve, because I still have goals for myself. I think it's not too late for me to get to GM. And I should mention that April 1st, April Fool's Day, ironically, I'm playing my first round robin GM tournament in basically 7 years. I might have played one in 2011, but I'm not sure if it was 2011 or 2010. But basically, okay, my first GM tournament in like 6 years here in Budapest. So this is training for me, guys. So I like to keep it serious, somewhat serious. Okay, so knight a4 or knight e4. I'm not a big fan of pieces on the side of the board. 5-0 games match. 5-6 games match with this Justice Bot or King's Crusher would be cool. 15-minute Fridays. That's cool. Cool idea. Yeah, a match. I'm not opposed to a match with another streamer. Justice Bot is at a slight disadvantage as far as time, probably. For Western players, it's kind of tough playing me at a time that's good for me. Maybe somebody like King Crusher, who was in the UK, you know, somebody else in the UK is more ideal. I mean, in Europe, maybe not King Crusher per se, but somebody, a match with somebody with a closer time zone is a little more fair. Bishop f5, and we got a really nice knight outpost going on. It doesn't really look like I have a lot of choices. Like, I could take on f6. I think this is right. And now we have some play. But he has some compensation. I really have to watch out for d3. It's not a joke. And it's hard for me to blockade. I mean, knight e1 is one of my main candidate moves here, believe me. Standard Tyrosh blockading plan, but we've got to consider taking his bishop on f5. You see, now this move is a move that I think black should come up with quickly. Maybe he has more than one option. But what are you going to do? Like bishop g4, bishop e6. There it is. He found it. It took him a while, but I thought objectively queen e7 is making the most sense, because he's obviously I could take on f5, but then my c5 pawn is difficult to hold on to. So I thought I'd rather play this first. We've got control of some key squares, like the e8 rook can't come over there. We'll call him the e8 rook. So he's got the bishop pair. I talk a lot about bishop pair versus knights lately. Here he dropped a piece, which is good for me. This is a very natural break, but unfortunately not the right moment for him to do it. So we're kind of fortunate there. Got time for one more game, guys. I mean, I'm not implying he has to resign here, but he might, because he dropped a piece. Omnivore is challenging me 5-3. Omnivore is 2481, but it's like a brand new account or something. 87. King Hunter. I guess we're gonna play Omnivore. Casual 5-3. Looks pretty strong. 2481 after 80 games. I don't know if Omnivore is here. He's eating everything. What's that? How did you end up in Budapest? Yeah, exactly. I misread the map. Long history of a series of chess tournaments here. I actually played a lot in Hungary in the late 90s, between 96 and 98. So it's not like I moved here in 2004, but I had been quite a bit. I spent quite a bit of time in Budapest in the late 90s playing IM tournaments and stuff like that. So I liked it, and when I was free and had a chance to go to Europe to play full time, I decided that would be a practical location where I've been before. It's a long time ago when I came here now in 2004 full time, but you know, for a chess player who's not necessarily wealthy, not as much anymore. The world's like getting expensive everywhere you go, but I think the cost of living in Budapest is quite inexpensive compared to many places. So as far as financial considerations, it's not bad. Cheaper than like living in Western Europe. It's also a really interesting place, and a really strong history of chess tournaments and chess in general. So it's a logical place to go for a chess player. Omnivore now, I have to remember I'm playing a 2481 here. Strange to see someone play bishop b5. That's not a move that like typical strong players play. Totally atheoretical. It's actually transposing to a line of the Rossalimo, which... Good luck, friend. Well, Omnivore, you're anonymous, and I'm not. You might be somebody I actually know, but difficult to be sure. Bishop e3. Strange mixing of systems here. I guess we'll just develop as quickly as possible. Not too many pawn moves from Omnivore. My philosophy for this exchange on c6 is like, you think about b takes c, but bishop takes is the safer route, because you don't want to end up with a bad bishop in this kind of Sicilian, like in the Rossalimo. Now he made a strange move, back to e2. So more or less white is playing a Scheveningen, kind of like tempo down. And if I don't play knight takes d4, he has retreat knight b3. So I thought, well, he took with the queen here. Interesting. This is just a really safe way for me to play this position. Now I guess a6. I don't want to end up with my bishop on c6, bishop on d7, knight on c6. Interesting, he took efficiently on d4. Maybe my exchange was too early. Still black should be fine. But this is a problematic piece configuration. Knight on c6, bishop on d7. If they play knight b3, then you're like kind of hung up with the bishop on d7 looking kind of stupid. So that's why I exchanged on d4. But it perhaps wasn't it wasn't necessarily the best, but maybe the safest. Now f4. Yeah, I mean, this looks like a standard Scheveningen. Very strange combination of bishop e5 and then bishop back to e2. Still white is equal. b4. Wow, b4 is a wild move. e5 is impossible. b5. b5 looks like the most stable. I think that's almost forced. Now, what is this a4? Wow. a4. Craziness. This is not a strategic kind of player I'm facing here. Very, very tactical. a4. Playing on the queen side. Takes on a4. Knight takes. Bishop takes e4. Knight b6. Complications may favor white there. He's trying to play this safely. Maybe I have something better. Takes on a4, takes on a4, knight takes e4. Knight b6, bishop f6. Massive complications. Mind-boggling, in fact. I don't know anything about this guy. It's just a new account. I draw the line at 50 games. It's so that people don't troll me with computers and just random accounts. But you never know. I mean, white's not playing like a computer per se, but you can never be sure one way or the other. This position is absurdly complicated. It certainly would favor the tactical player. Queen c4. I missed this entirely. He played it like instantly. So now I have to sack the exchange. Bishop b5 was some kind of queen sacrifice. That's a little too fast to see that, dude. I mean, queen takes b5, pawn takes d5. I mean, I'm always paranoid I'm playing a computer. There's no way to know, really, or no way to prove it. But if they're 2481, I have to be suspicious, you know. Unless this player has played a lot of games, he's got an established reputation. I don't know one way or the other, but that's pretty scary right there. I mean, he had that scary variation. Queen takes a8, and looks like black's just lost. Maybe I have some compensation, but not really enough. Knight takes a8, bishop takes a1, bishop takes a1 maybe. Knight c7 check. King d7. Rook takes a1, queen takes c7 with clear advantage to white. Again, crazy complications. Feels very, very suspicious. Queen takes a8. Bishop takes a1, rook takes a1, bishop takes a1. He also has bishop b6, like these insane intermezzos. Probably not good. King d7, takes. I don't know. I may just be lost here. White's play is pretty fantastic. It looks very suspicious, but I can't say decisively if he's using a computer or not. I mean, there'd be no way for me to say that, you know. Obviously, it's suspicious, the way he plays, but, you know, everybody just randomizes it. I mean, it's very hard to catch people for using computer or not. I can't really say. If he's human, he's like a ridiculous tactician. Which is possible. It's totally possible. Don't know. But I'm not gonna. You know, if I don't have any evidence to support this guy being a computer, I can't run around saying he's a computer. I mean, he might be or might not be. I mean, it's kind of hard to say. I would keep an eye on him. But he played very strangely. I mean, bishop b5, bishop back to e2. Master strength players don't play like that in general in the opening. Anyone who's as good as this guy is tactically wouldn't play like that, generally speaking. That's what makes it kind of suspicious. Inconsistency. Like, really, really bizarre play in the opening, followed by perfection tactically, is pretty suspicious. So, you never know. Now he has a couple of intermezzos that human might miss, like that, or maybe bishop b6 also is very interesting. But again, this just wins a pawn for white. I guess I could have played something else like queen f6. This looks pretty just resignable for black. Queen f6. Was that my idea? Oh boy, looks pretty bad. Looks pretty bad. But the problem is you get paranoid playing everyone. Nah, it's most likely. I'm just gonna resign here. Most likely, dude. Alright guys, I'll play one more game. This was kind of weird. Last game against King Hunter. Actually, I'm gonna abort this. King Hunter, I already played you, dude. I should play somebody who hasn't played before. Let me play the last game against... Sorry, man. Let me play the last game against Chess Kudo. Challenged me to 5-4. Very most likely. Yes, it rains constantly. I think it's global warming. There's like a lake in the middle of the Hungarian, like Budapest... The Budapest, like, Central Park, which is across the street, fairly close to where I live. There's like a massive lake where it used to be just dirt. It's very strange. C3 Sicilian Chess Kudo. Chess Kudo is pretty tough. He's got a decent score against me, a couple wins. Oh man, you tricked me into the C3 Sicilian. Alright, we'll try this. C3 Sicilian. I've played this line against Levente Vaida. By the way, the opening of the last game against the guy, I have noticed that computers, like with no opening book turned on, they like to play like stuff like he played, like bishop b5. It's just developing quickly. It's a very computer-like move, and I see that a lot from people who do cheat. Very, very commonly playing moves like bishop b5 in the Sicilian. Just some little clue. But again, I can't be sure that the guy was a computer or not. I mean, probably, but I certainly am not certain. Certainly not certain. Very convincing, huh? So this is a common main line in the C3 Sicilian. Do I speak Hungarian? I speak pretty badly. I'm basically first grade level in Hungarian. You know, I have a son who's about first grade age, and we're about the same level Hungarian. I think he might be a little better than me. Maybe I'm kindergarten level and working on first grade. All right, guys. Am I supposed to delay this capture for a move on this? I'm not sure. It's been a while since I played this. But it's possible. Yeah, dude, don't think twice about the last opponent. Between the opening play, the inconsistency, and then like mashing me like a dog tactically. Again, it's most likely a computer, but I wouldn't really like worry about it because there's no way to prove it one way or the other, except by just, you know, waiting for him to play enough games that it's really obvious one way or the other. He's only played 80 games. It's probably already clear if you'd study his other games. But I don't really feel like... I have better things to do with my life than study some random guy's games and see if he's a computer or not. But you can't base your decision on one game. That's definitely not fair. So, yeah, I guess that Chess Kudo here played this slightly inaccurately. You don't really want to trade queens with white. On the other hand, you know, he's still fine. If I don't trade queens, I'll transpose to theory. I mean, this is probably, like, Castle's Queen E2 looks suspiciously like a game I had with Vita Levente. Which I managed to draw, but I wouldn't really want to play it again. So I think trading queens is probably the safest bet. We play bishop d7, we go into lockdown mode. White's still a little bit better here. He has more space, but he has static weaknesses, and the queens are off the board. I don't like giving him the file, but I think that it's better to do that than let him keep queens on the board. That's a particularly nasty kind of position after Castle's Queen E2. I count myself lucky not to be among Levy's victims. In that game, anyway, I've played Vita like 5 times in the C3 Sicilian. I probably have 3 draws and 2 losses, or 2 draws and 3 losses. I don't remember. It's not very pleasant. What's your preferred mode of transportation to get around Europe? I'm completely okay with planes and trains, automobiles, like the movie. But I haven't been traveling a lot. You know, I was playing online poker a lot. I haven't played as much as I plan to, and here knight a5 deserves consideration, but I really would prefer to develop. Funny question. I like trains. They're inexpensive. Like, I went to Prague 2 months ago and went on the train because of just the cost was like nothing, you know. Traveling inside of Europe, often the train prices are very reasonable. All right, bishop e3. My king is a little uncomfortable here, but I think we can manage. Though, you've got to be very, very careful, like Peter Lako. Peter Lako style careful. This is definitely a Lako dream position. Mohammed says, won't you play with me? Mohammed, you have to challenge me on lichess. That's the first problem. The second problem is that I'm usually finished 5 minutes ago. So this is my last game for today. It's very hard to catch people who are cheating, but you know, usually the trail of evidence builds up after a time. Not so many people are stupid enough to like play every single move that the computer engine, you know, says they should play. That's pretty silly. To do that is too obvious. You need to be more careful. Anyway, knight a5. I do have to watch out for knight to d4. That's the one thing that could go wrong here at some point. I'm going to play b6. And the trick is, I can play knight takes e5 in some positions and just win a pawn. You know, if he plays knight d4, I play knight takes e5, and he's simply dropping a pawn on e5. So that's the one thing he can do to me, but it's not really good. You know, best case scenario, he'll play bishop f4, pin the guy there, and bishop b5. Okay. So Peter Lako, what would Peter Lako do? Maybe bishop c8. Trading rooks. liquidating on the file. It's kind of interesting. Maybe we have a different approach. Maybe we can do a blockade now. I think the blockade here starts to be reasonable. Knight a5 followed by knight d4, bishop c5. Kind of switch strategies. But we're looking for exchanges. We have better structure. This is the last game for today, guys. You should start a Chess Player Abroad series on YouTube where you show off all the cool European chess clubs. That would be a cool idea. So knight b5 right away. That's a strong move. He's got to go. You got to go, man. This has got to go. This is the problem. This is a monster piece threatening to invade on b5 and stuff. I've lost to Chess Kudo before. I mean, this guy can play really well. Don't be fooled by his rating of 1864. He's beat me in correspondence chess. And convincingly so. So, not a player to take lightly because I'm considerably higher rated. He understands how to play. The plan is trading on d4. And I think now I'm out of the woods. On the way to grandmother's house. And maybe we have a little edge. Bad bishop ending versus knight. Better king. Not sure which way he wants to recapture here. So this piece, a little questionable. White has more space. But I think that we've got good king, maybe good knight versus bad bishop. Easier to play for black here structurally with the knight. Maybe he's okay, as I said, if he plays accurately, but interesting move, bishop g5. I have to get my rook in the game, right? Though I could blockade. I don't want to let him in here. I guess I would suffer a little bit if he got a bishop on d6. Might be hard to get it out of there. Rook b5. Here I could play a6. It does weaken my queen side a little bit. No, I think it's better to keep it simple. Famous last words. Better to keep it simple. Okay, d5. We have knight takes e5. And then he has like an in-between move there. So I did calculate this, but I didn't really find the end of the variation. I mean, I saw rook e1, I think. f6, pawn takes pawn, rook e7. That's probably what I calculated. It looks like he's running out of ideas here. Rook takes d5. Would be simpler. Safer. Try to trade some pieces. Yeah, but we're objectively winning here. I hope he doesn't have any sort of tricks. I could trade rooks. Trade rooks. We're up 2 pawns. I mean, yeah, it has to be winning. Yeah, I still wouldn't resign with white just yet. He's right not to. This pawn on b5. All I have to do is attack that, and it's over. Yeah, he should have played king f1. That's it. That's it. You had to play king f1 and stop me from going to e2. Okay, interesting game from Chesskudo. I'm glad we stayed for that extra game. Better to keep it simple when you have less time. Does lichess play you to pays you to play for it? No. I mean, lichess is just my chosen place to play chess. I like the fact that lichess is not commercial. It's not paying people. It's just about chess, you know, and just a good place to play chess. So we are playing voluntarily. Thanks everybody for joining me. We'll be back tomorrow. Sorry, Mohammed. You know, come back tomorrow. Get in the queue. You know, we'll play. Play if you can be here tomorrow. Thank you everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. And thanks to Jeroen, my moderator. Tomorrow, Tuesday, 10 a.m. CET. Be here. All right, guys. Thanks again. Bye bye.